A paranormal encounter my father experienced when he was a kid. My dad doesn't believe in the paranormal at all. He is very logical, trying to see things with logic and common sense. He is also religious. This encounter though is something he really can't explain even to this day. His friends also witnessed this event. I think they were around 8 to 10 kids and teenagers on that night going out. This encounter happened in Greece, in the Greco-Turkish border area during summer of 1969. Summer of 1969, the village my father was living recently electrified at that time, receiving power and commodities like street lamps. Before that time, much of the Greek countryside had no access to electricity or running water. This was a big upgrade for the village and its residents' living conditions. My dad, who was a kid back then, and his friends wanted to see how the village looked from afar with the lights at night. The area was very safe at the time, with no wildlife like wolves, bears etc. residing there and with no threats from people existing. Parents allowed children to wander as much as they wanted, so my dad and his friends, around 8 or 10 children ages from 5 to 15 to 16, I think, went on a trip to see the village at night. They left on sunset approximately. At around midnight or a bit later they decided to return back. The way back included passing from a strip of dirt road that was sinking for a few centimeters. There was a local legend that this strip of dirt road was haunted by the spirit of a Greek collaborator's wife that was brutally murdered via getting spiked in a wooden pole by insurgents during the World War II German occupation of the area. It was said that it took the form of an Orthodox priest. When the group reached the spot they stopped. They started feeling fear and the weather started getting cold. They started crossing slowly, feeling afraid. To combat the fear, they started speaking loudly and singing. They had crossed half the road when one of the children, one of the older ones, looked behind and then saw, from the bulldozer, an Orthodox priest in full uniform suddenly appearing. The face was invisible and it was hovering a few meters of the ground. It started following the group in a steady pace with a distance of a few meters. The guy froze in fear but didn't say anything to not upset the group and the young children they had with them. A bit later, and another guy turned behind and saw the priest. He panicked and screamed, "Guys, ghost!" Everybody panicked and started running. They run approximately a distance of 2 and something kilometers, with the ghost following in a steady hovering pace a few meters behind. When they reached the village's first street lamp, they were all exhausted underneath the light. The ghost stopped a few meters away behind them. For a few seconds both the ghost and the kids stared at each other. Then the ghost vanished in thin air. Others had also seen the priest with the same description and characteristics at the time. It was a well-known legend. There are no modern reports or encounters with this specific ghost today. Some of the children died in following years due to old age or medical problems, but some are alive today being grown-ups and have confirmed the story to be true. Night shift hospital entities. Work part-time security at an outpatient facility. On average, I work at the hospital about 6 times a month. The money I make here is the money that I spend on myself, which is the only reason I have this job in the first place. I can go weeks without anything happening, then have a night where I'm constantly having something going on. Some of this can be rationalized, other things not so much. I have to do bi-hourly checks in a 12-hour shift. This requires me to walk around the facility, make sure that doors are locked, even though I already locked them, and basically document anything that may happen. On the human, physical level, this is very rare. Hospitals in general of any kind will always kind of come with their share of despair in some capacity. I've worked here for maybe 6 to 7 months, and I don't have an incredible amount of knowledge of the lore, so to speak. Most nights I'm in the hospital with 2 nurses and a maximum of about 3 patients. These are usually the uneventful nights. Then at least once every 2 months or so I'll be in a position where I have to guard the facility by myself. There are 2 stories I'm aware of. One is about a patient who passed away unexpectedly at the end of one of the corridors. I constantly have to open that door because it keeps closing. I'll open it, and when I go to do my checks, it'll be closed. I put this to the test one night by opening it, walking a circle around the corridor, and then went back to the room to find it closed. Yeah, I know, call Travel Channel, can't be in a place where a door is closing. Dude probably just wants some privacy. One of the older nurses had a son that ironically enough passed away in the hospital after a surgery. That's a sad occurrence as it is. But before she quit she said that she could sense her son's presence in the room that he passed away in. I assumed this was a coping mechanism on her part, but in that room I can occasionally see a shadow moving from one corner to the other. These were the things you can possibly talk me into rationalizing to some degree. The next three things will have to be persuaded a bit harder. First, the thing that got me looking over my shoulder for a while was when I went into the break room to make a pot of coffee. My back was against the open room, and as I'm fumbling around for cream and sugar, I can hear what sounds like furniture being dragged across the tile floor. I turned around and expected to get no closure over what I heard, but I had the pleasure of seeing a chair move a good foot and a half by itself. I got out of there and went back to my post. Didn't bother with the coffee, didn't know what else to do. The second thing was in the form of an apparition. I've never seen one before, and it bothered me for days. I was conducting my checks of the facility when I found my way down the same corridor that I mentioned earlier in this post. I was checking a few of the rooms, when I turned and saw a white shrouded figure standing in the doorway about 5 feet from me. I dropped my keys and flashlight on the ground and sort of tripped into the adjacent room. I was still processing what it was, but when I looked back, the doorway was empty. And upon further observation, there wasn't anybody in the hallway, which I already knew, but still needed to confirm. I further inspected the room and also did a recheck of the facility just for my own reassurance. Nothing. I was the only one there. The last thing is hands down what scared me the most. There is a storage room in the middle of the hospital. I hate this room for a variety of reasons. The main one being whoever designed the plans for this building stuck a light switch in the dead center of the room. And when I have to turn it off, I have to navigate my way out in the dark. This room gets pitch black once the lights are off. One night I went into the room to make sure the back door was locked, and when I shut the lights to lock the room down for the night, in my ear, clear as day, I hear, shhhhhhh, like I could feel the presence of someone behind me. My ears responded as if somebody was right in my ear saying it at a forced loud whisper. Don't know if that makes sense, but it's the only way I can describe it. I made sure I was out in the hallway before I shined my light in the room. Nothing again. I would later put a small figure of the Virgin Mary in the room underneath one of the shelves, as well as a medal of St. Francis de Sales that I got for my confirmation about 12 years ago. Since then I haven't had any experiences in that room. I welcome any and all skepticism. I'm skeptical myself in a lot of instances, but this is what night shift at the hospital can entail. There are knocks, there are footsteps, there definitely seems to be a presence here, and I'm not the only one who has experienced it.